Welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets with Tim McMaster, Zack Rosenblatt, and Marissa Dunn.
Can't wait!
The old saying goes, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. We'll see if that comes back to haunt the NFL schedulers who have given the Jets six primetime games in 2024 after Aaron Rodgers played 4 downs and a similar schedule in 2023. We can all hope that the Jets stay healthy, draw big ratings all season long with this primetime heavy schedule. We're going to break down the whole thing here on the Can't Wait podcast. I'm Tim McMaster along with Zack Rosenblatt, our Jets reporter, Marissa Dunn, our producer. Guys, it's been a few weeks since we did this. We got a lot to get to with the schedule, obviously, but how's everybody doing, Zack?
I am exhausted, but not because of work-related reasons. So I went to the Phillies-Mets game on Tuesday with Samantha and Diana and her husband. Actually, did like a little day trip to see the Phils and the Mets because I'm a Phillies fan, and so is her husband. Maybe I shouldn't admit that on here. And then I also, for Mother's Day, got my mom tickets to a Phillies game in Philly, so I had to drive down to Philly yesterday morning, and then went to the game, and then it was a late one. It was raining all night, and then I finally hit the road. That's why we're a little late today. I just literally got back to my apartment. But this is the time of the year where I can do things like this, whereas there's other parts of the year where I'm not able to really do anything outside of the Jets. So try to enjoy it, even if I'm very, very tired right now.
Marissa, what do you think of Zack complaining about being tired? when were you up?
All I'm gonna say is Tim and I are the ones with babies, and
wait, I don't know.
Ailey's like a toddler at this point.
Well, I'm sitting here
Ailey's
bragging
like
about how I'm bragging about how I'm going to a baseball game in the middle of the day.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, the Madison 5:55 this morning, and she never wakes up that early. She's such a good sleeper. I never can complain, so I don't even want to complain about this. But yeah, 5:55. I heard her crawling around in the crib.
No. Yeah, I guess I forgot my audience. So yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, not to sidetrack too much, but as we were coming on, I was staring at my phone because the Giants just like released their like throwback jerseys or whatever that they're going to be wearing, and I think they're awful. I don't know if people like them, but I don't know if people want to look at that if you're watching live. But yeah, so that was just on my mind. What have you guys been up to?
Oh yeah, they're really bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can while we're talking maybe pull them up on the screen. But I'm excited to see this whole offseason Hard Knocks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Giants had a very interesting offseason too. So I'm curious to see. I mean, the Hard Knocks, they let the teams kind of control what goes out there. I know the Giants have always been very against going on Hard Knocks at all, so maybe this was their compromise. But yeah, I don't know. They had a weird offseason. I think they might have one of the 3 to 5 worst rosters in the NFL, and now they have maybe the worst uniforms.
I don't know, man. I kind of love them.
You do?
Really?
I mean, they're hideous, but like I love them.
Oh, but like you love how it's
hideous
like when a movie is so bad that it's good kind of thing.
Yeah, and they have like because back with the leather helmets, they have kind of the Michigan thing going on. Wow, that's something. Well, if you're going to go all in on a throwback,
yeah,
go all in.
Well, see, the Jets did it right. They just literally just went back to what they wore like not that long ago, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we love that." Oh God, yeah, it's so bad.
There it is, 1930. If you're watching on YouTube, we have it up. 1933 jersey.
That looks like a uniform. That looks like a uniform you'd create on like Madden if you created a team, and like that's the best you could do because you get like blue and red on there. Like,
all I'm gonna say is no one better ever make fun of the Maryland Terrapin uniforms after.
You're going to say the Browns ones. I know they got some like.
No, I like the Browns ones. I like
the Browns haven't changed their uniforms. Since
it's just like that. There's just some like white lining or something now, right?
Yeah. No, I like the Browns ones, but people always get on me for the Maryland uniforms because I'm like such a big fan.
Oh, I like the Maryland uniforms, honestly.
Yeah, and this is
it like represents like the Maryland flag and all that stuff.
Exactly. I don't really know what this represents. The gold pants are just.
I didn't even look at the pants. Honestly, I was just looking at the other stuff. The pants. Why are they gold? Why are they?
They don't match. I assume because in 1925 that was like the easiest color to get for pants, right? Like,
wow. This is awful. Oh my God. Well, the Jets have better uniforms than the Giants, so they have that on them. So
Better uniforms, should have a better team this year. Lots of bragging rights there in the tri-state.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to the schedule. How about it, huh?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, everybody probably that is watching this, listening to this, has seen it, but here it is up on the screen. They open on Monday Night Football again with the San Francisco 49ers. Robert Sala's old team, obviously, where he came from. Week 2, it's at the Titans. Week 3, back home for the Patriots. Those 3 games to be played in 11 days. Week 4, at home for the Broncos. Then it's across the pond to London. The game Zach's most looking forward to, not because of the game. Week 6, Bills, Monday Night Football. Week 7, Steelers, Sunday night. Week 8, at Patriots again. Week 9, back home for the Texans on Thursday night, so another short week.
Halloween.
Then, and then at Cardinals, home for the Colts for the final primetime game Sunday night. Then they finally get their bye week in week 12, and then it's home for the Seahawks and Dolphins at Jacksonville. Home for the Rams, Mike LaFleur's return to MetLife, and then at Bills, at Dolphins to finish it out. They better have a playoff spot secured before they get to the final 2 weeks. All right, that's the schedule. Let's go back to the top. Zach, let's start with weeks 1 through 3, because I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Monday night, short week and then at the Titans, and then Thursday night, home for the Patriots. So it's back-to-back short weeks to open the season, 3 games in 11 days. I mean, wow.
So before I even get into that, I just want so I tweeted this out when the schedule came out, just the first 11 weeks, and we'll go to the blocks that you're talking about right shortly after. But it's the most insane start to a schedule I can remember. Maybe, I don't look at every schedule every year, so maybe I'm wrong, but I can't imagine teams ever had 6 primetime games in the first 11 weeks. That is bonkers. And 7 standalone games if you count London. As you mentioned, they have 3 games in 11 days to open the season, which is I guess maybe it's better that you're getting out of the way early, but I don't know, man. As we're going to get into, this is an old team with guys that need rest. Tyron Smith might not practice in that stretch because there's no time to really. The team might not practice. That's such a short stretch of games. They're going to practice, but it's going to be walkthroughs and how ready are you going to be to play in these physical games? And they don't run a very intense training camp generally, the Jets. So I'm concerned about the physical part of it, and so many guys on this team with injury questions. Like Mike Williams is coming off an ACL, not going to be ready for training camp. I imagine he's going to start the season off with an injury designation. And do you want to rush? I'm getting too in the weeds. Anyway, they have no bye until week 12. They have a short week in week 6 and week 7. They have a short week in week 8 and week 9. If you look at the actual opponents, I don't think it's very intimidating. If you just remove the days,
yes,
the times,
right?
This is a very winnable schedule, top to bottom. If you look at,
I think it was 3rd easiest as far as actual opponents.
In terms of the actual opponents, and again, and I'll say this a lot on this, it is a fool's errand to put too much stock into how teams were last year. I think we do that every year with the schedule. You're well, this is an easy stretch, and it never works. It's always the opposite. You think, okay, well, they have the easy stretch in the beginning and the hard stretch at the end, which is what their schedule looks like. But that is not what happens ever. You should throw that out the window and just go matchup by matchup and try and figure out. We're pretty much guessing how the teams are going to be. As I was listening to Bill Simmons, as they said, everybody's doing these predictions last year. They didn't factor in the idea that Aaron Rodgers was going to go down 4 plays in. So the Jets looked like not an easy win. And then if you had known Zach Wilson was going to be their quarterback all year, if you're predicting your team's schedule, you'd say, oh, they're playing the Jets that week. That'll be a win. So that's why schedule prediction is so hard. Everybody kind of falls into the same traps. You look at the games that are winnable, you give them wins. You make sure they win a couple hard ones, lose a couple they're not supposed to. They split the division games, and then at the end of the year, you come up with something in the range of 8 to 11 wins, and that's just how everybody does it. But anyway, those first 3 games, what you wanted to talk about. The 49ers on the road week 1, that's a really tough one. Monday night.
Monday night
again. Not only Monday night again, but the guy that injured Aaron Rodgers signed with the 49ers, Leonard Floyd. It's just too perfect. And
no MetLife turf, though. No
MetLife
natural
turf.
Grass for this one.
No MetLife turf. A lot of, obviously, 49ers connections with the Jets. Aaron Rodgers from Northern California. There was long time rumors that he wanted to play for them. They picked Alex Smith ahead of him, but then there was possibilities of trades with the Packers and the 49ers over the years, including as the Jets were getting closer. There was rumors that was a thing again. I don't think that was accurate, but I mean, that's a really tough opener, especially because the 49ers are a team that brings back a lot of their guys. They have that chemistry, whereas the Jets are incorporating a lot of new pieces, which you've seen them kind of get bumpy. Even in training camp last year with Rodgers was bumpy, and he still technically hasn't played in a full game with these guys. They have a completely new offensive line, some new receivers. So I'm concerned about that game. I'm not saying I think they're going to get killed or anything. That's going to be a really tough one to win. Week 2, I mean, the Titans don't particularly scare me. Obviously,
Yeah, but that's a team that
it's a
we don't
sneaky
know.
team. Yeah, that is it. I mean,
I
they
mean,
have
new
the
coaching staff,
coach.
everything.
I was just going to
So-
say, you never any team with a new coach is a threat, I think, because
Right.
a lot of times, I mean, Mike Vrabel was a good coach. There was a lot of problems they had, including at quarterback, which it depends on what you think about Will Levis. But yeah, and they have good receivers. And again, we don't know what the Jets are going to look like, and it's a short week on the road in Nashville. So by no means an easy game either.
Short week coming back across the country. Too.
Yeah, coming back across the country. So then you're adjusting your bodies and all that stuff. But I mean, you'd hope they win that one. And then again, turnaround short week, Thursday night at home against the Patriots. Again, we all are assuming the Patriots are going to be bad, but what if they aren't? I don't know. And again, they finally beat the Patriots at the end of last season to help the Patriots go and get Drake May. And so it feels like, if this is going to be a traditional Jets season, it would mean Drake May looks amazing at the start of the season and beats them. But again, if they lose that game, then I think fans are going to start getting worried already. And so you got to win that one, even if, the circumstances, you're going to hear a lot of complaints about the schedule. I'm one of the people not necessarily complaining, but saying how it's insane that they gave them the schedule, but you have to play the games that are on your schedule and the timing that they are on. And so it's not an excuse. It's unfortunate they're not going to have good rest and you have all these old players coming off injuries, but this is the hand they're being dealt, and they went all in on this season to win right now. And so you have to beat a bad Patriots team in week 3 at home. It's the home opener. Home opener being on Thursday night in week 3 is just sucks for the fans. Honestly, I really feel for them. But you hope by then you're at least 1-1. So there's still a lot of optimism, a lot of hype. It's not going to be the same environment as it was last year, because that was just insane with all the hype and everything, and nobody knew what was coming. And then disaster happened. But that was the most insane crowd I've ever seen at a Jets game. I don't think that'll be that case on Thursday. I think there'll be some excitement. If they're 2-0, it will be. But
yeah, I was gonna say you don't think it'll be.
I don't know.
I guess people can't.
It's just hard to predict. It's hard to predict because it's
a Monday night.
If they come out of week 2 and they have a stinker or something,
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see what the energy is like, but the excitement level is very high right now in general. And I'm very curious to see what training camp looks like, because last year was pretty bonkers. But yeah, I don't know. This first 3-game stretch, it's more difficult because of the scheduling than necessarily the opponents. But as we keep emphasizing, maybe the Titans will be better than we think too.
So I look differently at the Thursday night, because last year it was Monday night, right? And you're thinking about people maybe go to work first and then try to get to the stadium on a midweek game in general. But on a Thursday night game, I feel like people will take Friday off, right? And just be ready to just all in on a Thursday night game. Where Monday you have a whole week ahead of you. I don't know.
Probably.
I agree, but last year
fair.
there was so much this is the
Build up.
year. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
different.
They've quieted that down a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Jets fans have, now
You're right.
okay,
It probably
well,
does depend on.
Yeah.
I
If
do
it's-
like.
they're
I mean,
2-0,
I look at Twitter, and expectations are clearly very high, because I see people predicting 13 wins. So they haven't eased back on expectations. I think Jets fans are just so starved for a winner. So I think it just I think they're more prepared for the worst case scenario than last year, because I don't think in their wildest dreams they could have imagined that, even as Jets fans, which is kind of wild. But I don't know. I'm very curious. I think I'll have a better vibe on how that week 3 is going to. I mean, it's going to be a great crowd. Don't get me wrong. I just think week 1 last year was. It's going to be hard to live up to that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's the Patriots being this early in the season is we're getting the 2 Patriots games out of the way pretty early, which in terms of Patriots torching the Jets is probably a good thing. But yeah. So you hope they're 2-1 coming out of the stretch, but it's conceivable that they're not, for sure.
Yeah, and you're right about those first 2 games maybe saying a lot about what the atmosphere is like. If they're 2-0, it's going to be electric. I don't see how they win at San Francisco Monday night, but I think 1-1 makes a lot more sense. But yeah, if somehow they're 0-2, then things could turn quickly. But
I will say one storyline for that 49ers game is something that we talked about earlier in the offseason, was that they wanted to hire Jeff Ulbrich away, and the Jets. They never wound up requesting an interview, but he played for them for 10 years. He's from the area. Solomon Thomas, 49ers, Robert Saleh. I think there's a couple other. Javon Kinlaw, they just signed. They have a lot of guys in the coaching staff, so that obviously there's going to be a lot of like stories to be written. DJ Reed was they pretty much gave up on him when Saleh was the coach. They made him try to make him a safety, didn't work. Went on to become a great player, obviously. So it should be a fun one with all the storylines, and you hope the Jets on Monday Night Football in front of everybody at least keep it close. They have the talent to do it. The 49ers are just a more cohesive team that has had the same coaching staff for a long time, a lot of the same players. Their quarterback's returning. Their offense is loaded. It'll be a good test for the defense, but it'll be a fun one. But like you said, it's hard to see the Jets winning that one, just like as we sit here right now.
Yep. Rodgers has plenty of history with the Niners also.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
From the NFC. All right. So then it's back-to-back home games because it's Patriots and then it's Broncos. Broncos, another game when, you look at the quarterback room, which we've talked about, and a lot of things. Like it feels, if there's a must win on the schedule, right? Like you have to beat the Broncos at home. And then back to the crazy travel across the ocean to London. Congratulations, Zach, on getting to an international trip out of this. But that one's fun too. The Vikings, will be interesting because there's a world where Sam Darnold starts that game.
100%. Yeah. I think that's, obviously I selfishly am excited about this trip. I went in 2018 with the Eagles. They played at Wembley, which is an amazing stadium. I would have been happy. I think the rumor was for a while they were going to play the Jaguars in Wembley. I think everybody assumed
I think Spurs
that.
is a nicer stadium.
I haven't been to Tottenham, so I'm excited to see something new. And then, I'm kind of annoyed with the Jets for not taking the bye the week after. And I don't know if they regret it now that they see their full schedule, but I don't know exactly how that works.
So that's something the teams get to choose.
Yeah, with the London game, you get to choose if you want to buy. I don't know like the detail of what they're like, if they're giving them like, okay, you either are going to have a buy or you're going to play these teams, and your buy is going to be in week 13, or week 12. I don't know if they.
Well, maybe but you're going to London week 5. Do you want to buy that early?
Yeah, like maybe that's what it was. Yeah. So, in a lot of teams, it seems like lately have eschewed the buy. I personally don't like it, but they do have a Monday night game after that, so
right to get an extra
that does push the week up a little bit, which is nice. I'll probably travel a little bit for a couple days after that game because we're out there, so why not? But yeah, in terms of this 3-game stretch, before we go too deep in the Vikings one, the Broncos. I think a Sean Payton coach team is always going to be, I think, better than I think people expect, but it really depends on their quarterback room because Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, Jared Stidham. There's not. I would say I would have the least confidence in that quarterback room out of any in the NFL going into the season. Not like Bo Nix might wind up being good. It would be pretty crazy if they played Zach Wilson that early in the season. Can't be ruled out, as we know.
Imagine if they played Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold back-to-back weeks.
Oh man,
what a world!
Oh, that has to happen. That's a great point. That has to happen. Sean Payton has a little something extra for the Jets because they have a little history now. I'm sure Rodgers has been dying to get his shot at him. This one's in New York, so at least Elijah Vera Tucker can safely avoid the state of Colorado. John Franklin Myers on Denver now, as we know.
Yep.
And I do think Denver is maybe better than people are giving them credit for, but it's just all about the quarterback position. They're a team that I think is going to be underestimated a little with like odds and over-unders and stuff like that. But that's a game that Jets absolutely should win. If you look at the rosters on paper, it's not even close. And then Vikings in London. I think the Vikings, they're in a very interesting spot because I do think they have a really good roster. But who's their quarterback? Do you believe in Sam Darnold and or JJ McCarthy? I feel like if I'm predicting right now, I think maybe Sam Darnold starts at the beginning of the year, but by week 5, is he still starting? They did trade up to a spot to get McCarthy. And it'll be a fun match. If Darnold's playing the Jets, I think that'd be a lot of fun. These London games are always like sloppy and weird, and that just feels like perfect for Darnold playing for the Vikings against the Jets in this sloppy, weird game that you hope the Jets come home. I think it'll be a Jets heavy crowd because there's a big Jets contingent of fans in the UK. The Jets have really
One
tried
of
this
our
with the
top
presence.
audio
Yeah.
guys in our UK office is a
Oh,
huge Jets fan.
There you go.
He came to New York. I believe the story is he came to New York on his honeymoon, right when the Jets were looked like they were taking off, right, with Sanchez and the conference championship games. And it was like, oh, this is going to be my team. This is fantastic. And then he suffered. But he's already talking about getting tickets to the game. So
there you go. Yeah. Well, and those crowds are a lot of fun. If it's still like it was when I went in 2018, it's like everybody that likes the NFL goes to the game. And so you see jerseys from every single team at those games. And it's like super cool. Franco Caniglione, I hope I said his name right, just said Rodgers owns the Vikings, which is a factor I forgot to think about NFC North days. His buddy Aaron Jones is on the Vikings now. So I think that'll be a fun game because I do think the Vikings are actually pretty good. And I think the NFC North is actually pretty stacked this year. That's gonna be a fun division. The Jets pretty much, I think they only play the Vikings out of that division. Right? Vikings, Packers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the Vikings.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's gonna be a fun one, and I hope a lot of Jets fans fly out there. It's a good time of the year, October. I think that's a good time to go on a little trip. That's my birthday week, October 10th. So it'll be fun, and if there's can't wait listeners out there, then I'd love to meet up with you guys in London. So
we should do a can't wait live show from London.
Hey, yeah, but let's get you guys.
Let's get that on the budget.
Yeah, let's do.
Yeah.
I'll sneak you guys into my when I purchase the ticket on our system. I'll do 3. I'll do 3 tickets, and you guys can.
Have you used the system yet, Zach? I don't know.
I mean, I hate that system. If I'm being honest.
Anyway, all right.
I mean, I think Jets fans totally. If you're looking that is so cool to get to go and travel, but also see your team.
Yeah, they have a great road schedule this year for the fans. If they're willing to make some of it's like cross country or across the globe, but. Some fun trips.
Yeah.
Nashville's a great. It's one of my favorites in the NFL.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. And good stuff early in the year when the weather's still nice too.
Yeah.
All right. So that's through week 5, which is you can kind of take that as a section and then move on to the middle part of the schedule, which opens up with, you mentioned it, they get an extra day rest coming out of the London game, but it's Bills Monday Night Football, which is going to be, you would imagine, it's a massive game. The Bills have maybe taken a step back. I guess we'll see. Josh Allen's still there, but obviously Diggs is gone and they've lost some other people. But I would imagine it's still going to be a good football team. So them at home, Monday Night Football, if both those teams are 4-1, 5-0, that could be really good. Yeah.
I mean, if the Jets are what we think they can be, then these games against the Bills are going to be crucial for both the playoffs and for the AFC East. It's funny. Early in the offseason, I wrote something like how the Jets stack up on paper roster wise. And I think the Jets pretty clearly have the most talented roster if you just go position by position. Bills fans are very mad at me for even suggesting that they might fall off. But they might not ultimately. A lot of times, a lot of the guys they got rid of are a little older. I think people are down on Stephon Diggs a little bit. At the end of the day, they have the best quarterback in the division in Josh Allen. And, I think the rookie, Keon Coleman, seems like the best personality in this draft, guy they drafted from Florida State. There's been a lot of viral clips with him. I think he's going to be a pretty good player too. So I think the Bills are absolutely going to be a playoff team and probably the AFC East favorite. And so this is a big one, especially, it's another Monday night game against the Bills. That's we're going to hear a lot about Aaron Rodgers' last experience in that environment. So that's a big one in the middle of the year, especially, they need to win these division games when they come. And, at the end of the year, they only have, they 3 division games at the end of the year, 2 of them against the Dolphins. So they have a lot of division games pretty early. So they need to win. They need to win at least one of these Bills games, if not 2. And they generally are pretty good against Josh Allen, but they split those last year.
All right, week 7, it's at the Steelers, and it's Sunday night again in Pittsburgh. And I don't know what to think about the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should be good. I mean, they won a decent amount of games last year with no quarterback, and I don't think Russell Wilson is good. So it's you're pretty much going from below average to average.
Who knows? Justin Fields could be playing.
Yeah, now they have a bunch of quarterbacks.
Yeah, they have 2 better quarterbacks than any of the ones they had last year. And the rest of the roster is good, I think. I mean, the receivers aren't amazing, but their defense is really, this is going to be one of the better defenses they face. Pittsburgh is always a tough environment. The last time they were in Pittsburgh was the Zach Wilson game where the Jets talked about his like fourth quarter performance like he was going to the Hall of Fame. Like they kept referring back to that all season. But yeah, you know, this should be a good one, especially Sunday Night Football. The Steelers are just well coached, and you know, we don't know how well the Jets are coached yet because they have so much moving parts and stuff like that. But like Mike Tomlin battling Nathaniel Hackett, you take Mike Tomlin. So yeah, I'm very interested to see this game because the Steelers are kind of a wild card, because if Russell Wilson is better than he was in Denver, then the Steelers could be like a contender. And there's no reason to think he will be better than that. But if he's even average, they're a playoff team, because the Steelers are a playoff team anyway. They always win at least 9 games, which is, it's just wild how that continues to happen every year. And that's why Tomlin has lasted as long
Having
as
a system and a good coach is valuable.
Yeah, consistency. And they've made some changes to their staff. Arthur Smith actually is their offensive coordinator, which is interesting. But yeah, that I think that's one of the better games on the schedule, honestly. Short week for the Jets again, by the way.
And a very tough environment, especially Sunday night.
Yeah.
Then up to New England week 8. And this one, you know, if there's a world where Drake May isn't starting week 3 because maybe they ease him in, Brissett starts game 3, I would think by week 8, you're definitely going to see May.
Yeah, you would, unless Brissett's like playing really, really well. I mean, Marissa knows Brissett from his days with the Browns. He's a solid
Jets fans. I'm not saying I'm rooting for them, but I am rooting for Jacoby.
You're allowed to root for players specifically.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that'll be interesting. But yeah, by then I think we'll know the identities of both the Jets and the Patriots. And if the Patriots are going to be bad, I think we'll know by then. And if the Jets are if they're going to be a contender, or if it's going to be an absolute mess, I think we'll know by then. So again, this is why it's so hard to predict. Like, I know we have to do it as the job and it's like fun and all that stuff, but it's so hard to know, like, are they healthy at this point in the season? The Jets, like, they've gone 8 straight weeks with all these short rests and all these old players. Like, I don't know. That's why I'll tell you what my prediction. I mean, you saw the article. Like, what my prediction was for the record. I was kind of like a little more hesitant because I want to see this team in training camp. But yeah, that's why. Again, they obviously, like, as we're sitting here right now, I can say they absolutely should win that game. But I don't know. By the time we get there, the Patriots might be sneaky good. Who knows?
Or really bad.
Or really, really bad. They have a bad roster on paper.
And as a franchise, they could almost benefit from really being bad.
Yeah, because they load up around Drake May. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting a top 5 pick for a second straight year wouldn't be the worst thing for that franchise when you look at the roster and where it is right now. All right. So from at New England, which is obviously a short trip, but then a short week.
Yep.
And I don't know. When I look at the schedule, obviously Niners feels like the toughest game on the schedule.
Yeah.
But Texans Thursday Night Football might be the next hardest.
Texans on a short week. Again, there's a lot of unknown in week 1, so you can maybe couch it with that, with the 49ers game, because who just knows how a team's going to look in week 1 and all that stuff. I mean, there's more questions about the Jets, but I mean, the Jets had their number last year. Like, their defense dominated CJ Stroud. Zach Wilson had the best game of his career, obviously. But that's one of the most talented. I would say that's one of the 5 most talented rosters in the league. I think Nick Caserio's done an amazing job building that team.
It just shows how quickly it can turn.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. He was genius, I think. I mean, maybe genius is a little strong of a word, but when he first got there, he just signed guys to like 1 or 2 year deals. It was like veterans, kind of establish the culture, get things going. They didn't really have the coach yet. They bring in D'Amico Ryans, they get the quarterback, and they had a roster built around him that was like pretty solid veterans all around, along with a lot of these rookies. And they built up the offensive line and all that stuff. So I think he's done a great job of roster building. And so I don't think that team has a lot of holes. Maybe the running game isn't like stellar, but Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce is a pretty interesting duo. Add Stephon Diggs to Nico Collins and Tank Dell, who will be back. They have Dalton Schultz at tight end. At this point, I think we'll also know if the Jets defense is going to keep having the same kind of luck and success that it did the last 2 years, where they really have not dealt with health issues like at all on defense, which is just crazy. Like, there's been a couple guys here and there, like Al Woods and Chuck Clark, who have had some bad injuries, but they've had a lot of luck on defense. And this is going to be their biggest test offensively outside of week 1 to this point of the season, at the very least, because we haven't gotten to the Dolphins yet. So again, this is by this point, we'll know if the Jets are Super Bowl contenders. And if they are, this is a game they should win. And if they aren't Super Bowl contenders, then you hope they don't get embarrassed by what I think is going to be a Super Bowl contender in the Houston Texans. So it should be a fun one. A lot of times these Thursday games aren't good matchups. I guess you don't know before the season when they make them, but this is a fun one, I think. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
especially
to
thinking back to last year and the way it
Yeah.
went, because the Texans are going to remember that as well. And then they get a little bit of a longer break, obviously, from Thursday Night Football to go to across the country to take on the Cardinals. So, yeah, you get a few extra days off, but you get to fly across the country again.
I was curious if a lot of times when a team has the West Coast swing like that, they do it back to back, and then the team, I think the Giants did that like the start of the season last year, where you stay out there. But
yeah, if they'd done like Niners, Cardinals.
Yeah, Niners Cardinals is what they did. And sometimes, or it'll be like an LA Seattle type swing I've seen teams do. But anyway, I'm selfishly very excited for Arizona. I lived in Arizona for a long time, went to school out there, as some of our listeners, Taylor Delgado's in here, he knows that. And my little brother lives in Phoenix. I got a lot of close friends out there. So I'm always excited to get back there. We get to go for the owners' meetings every couple of years. But in terms of the game, the Cardinals are another team that, I think they were one of the teams that everybody looked at last year as that's an easy win, but they were actually pretty competitive most of the year. They didn't wind up like having a great year, but I think they're better last year than people thought, and they bring everybody back. Kyler Murray healthy, depending on what you think about Kyler. I know some people are mixed on him, but I think he's pretty good. They have some weapons. I think their defense has some talent. Jonathan Gannon is maybe a better coach than I expected. So I think that'll be
Marvin Harrison, right?
Marvin Harrison. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a more challenging game than maybe you would think. So especially on the road in the West Coast. Again, the Jets should beat the Cardinals. Like there's no reason they wouldn't beat the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are a feisty team, and they're gonna be.
The thing I always think about with Murray though is will he actually be healthy by week 10? Right? Like he's just such a small guy. I feel like he's always going to be battling that throughout his career, but we'll see. He's also elusive. Just needs to get out of bounds. All right, and then going into the bye week, one more primetime game Sunday night back at home for the Colts. And this is like the interesting section of the schedule, I think, because you have the Cardinals, which we think is very winnable. Colts should be winnable. Then a week off. Then the Seahawks, who should probably be still down. It's an area where I think they have to capitalize.
I think the Cardinals, Colts, and Seahawks is an interesting stretch because I think all three teams are like kind of young teams, new coach in Seattle, so there's a chance they jump up. There are teams that have like some talent, some questions at quarterback, things like that. Like I think Anthony Richardson's very talented, but he has to stay healthy for the Colts. And I should say, like in this 11-week stretch, we kind of alluded to this earlier. Like the opponents aren't scary as much as like the scheduling. Like if you just look at purely quarterbacks, if you're just basing a team's chances of winning a lot of games on like the quarterbacks they're facing, then you feel pretty good about the Jets. I mean, Brock Purdy, good. Will Levis, questions. Drake May, questions. Bo Nix, Sam Darnold / JJ McCarthy, Josh Allen, good. Russell Wilson, questions. Patriots again. CJ Stroud, good. Kyler Murray, he's good. Anthony Richardson, questions. Seahawks, Geno Smith or Sam Howell, like neither really scare you. They're both solid players, but so there's not a lot of like star quarterbacks they're going against, and the Jets generally have been pretty good against star quarterbacks anyway. So if you're just basing
last year they had, it was like murderer's row.
Yeah,
our quarterbacks. Yeah,
and they did a good job against pretty much all of them. So that's something to remember. That's why even if you're a national person who is down on the Jets, like if you look at their schedule and who they're playing, there's no way you can predict unless you just truly just think Aaron Rodgers is going to get hurt early or something like that, which is not something people should be predicting injuries. Like there's no way you can predict this team's going to win less than 8 or 9 games unless you just really believe it's going to be a complete dumpster fire, which is possible. But even if it is, like I just think the way this schedule plays out and their talent level, I just think they're going to win games even by accident sometimes. So I just wanted to make that point. But yeah, that Colts Seahawks, Colts by Seahawks, those are obviously winnable games. The Jets are going to be favored in them, more talented roster. I think the Seahawks are going to be a team, one of the new coach teams I have my eye on with Mike McDonald because I think he's a great coach. Things got a little stale with Pete Carroll, I think. They have some talent on defense. It comes down to how Geno or Sam Howell plays. But I think the Seahawks could be pretty good, actually. So that's a game I have my eye on in terms of difficulty.
All right, and then the last 5 weeks is tough. They need to be in a good position going into this stretch because it's Dolphins, at Jaguars, Rams, and then at Bills, at Dolphins. Let's start with the Dolphins.
Yeah,
And we just talk about the two Dolphins games at once, right? Because it's
Yeah.
so close together, which is tricky. Last year they split. Is that right? They got them once.
No, they
lost both.
Lost both. Yeah.
Lost both.
Yeah, they were disastrous actually. Black Friday.
That's right. That's
was a disaster. And then the other one they got just like destroyed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Dolphins are, they're a force that has to be reckoned with in this division right now. You can obviously question if Tua is going to last a whole season again, but they have the weapons. They added Odell Beckham to that receiver group, and you can say what you want about Odell. As a third receiver, I think he's really good. I don't know if you want to rely on him like the Ravens did, but if Tua's healthy, I mean, if he's not, they got Mike White, so they're going to win the Super Bowl with Mike White anyway. So, yeah, those are two games. I will say again, selfishly, the last game of the season being at home has not been a thing that has happened for the Jets since 2016. So I'm very happy about that. The Jets,
Yeah, I actually had that. I'm sorry. I had said they were at the Dolphins week 18. Yeah, they're at the Dolphins week 14. Back home week 18.
Yeah. I think the initial schedule leak had the opposite, which was the issue. But I mean, obviously they should be in the playoffs, but a lot of times the last game is the end of the season around here. So you have to get back to the facility in time for a locker room clean out day the next day. Hopefully we don't have to do that this year. I'm not rooting for that. Obviously as I've said on here, it's better if the Jets are winning for business. That it is 100% better. So want them to be in playoff contention, and you have to beat the Dolphins if you want to be taken seriously. You don't have to win both of those games, but you have to win one of them. You can't lose to the Dolphins both times and think you're going to be taken seriously as a contender. So, either one, December in Miami is ideal because, that's good conditions. And then the Dolphins having to come to New York in January or whatever is also ideal because that's cold conditions for them. So that plays in their favor. But this stretch, and again, we're all on paper right now, but this is the hardest stretch of the season from Seahawks to the end of the season at the Dolphins, because I think all those teams are talented enough to make a push for the playoffs.
All right. And then within there, you mentioned Jaguars, obviously that they're a team that was much improved last year. Rams is interesting because that's LaFleur coming back.
Yep.
But I just don't know what to think of where that team is right now.
Do you remember
step forward last year, but was that a real step forward or was that kind of a fluke?
Well, no Aaron Donald anymore either. Do you remember the last time the Jets played the Rams? Remember what
ironically, that's when they lost the chance at Trevor.
Yes. Okay,
and they're going to play Trevor the week before that.
Oh, good point. Yeah. So they're making their return.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah. And I for our story we all had to do a schedule story, and you had to write a team that is more intimidating than the last time your team faced them or whatever. And I did that one. And you just go back and look, and it's Jared Goff is still the Jets quarterback. Adam Gase is the Jared Goff is the Rams quarterback. Adam Gase is the Jets head coach. There's not really many players left from that. Braden Mann is now a Philadelphia Eagle. So yeah, it's been a long journey here. Zach Wilson is no longer a Jet, obviously. So, which happened as a result of that game. So the Rams are a good. They should be a good team. They're obviously always going to be well coached with Sean McVay. And yeah, so that's going to be an interesting one. Michael Flores returned to MetLife. Yeah, I guess he was at MetLife against the Giants, I think, last year. But that'll be
it's different though. Giants MetLife, Jets MetLife.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, should we do predictions game by game? Are you ready?
Yeah, I guess we can do that.
Or do you know? I mean, I know what your overall prediction.
Yeah,
is,
I'd rather say overall, honestly.
Okay.
If that's okay with you guys,
that's fine with me. Yeah. And people aren't going to like you very much. So
I know. I'm with the caveat that I'd rather not even make this prediction until I see this team in training camp, in the preseason. But I said 9-8 just because.
Boo.
Like that, they're right on the edge of the playoffs with a 9-8, maybe making it, but more likely you make it at 10 or 11 wins, which I absolutely think they have the ability to get. But my thing is I need some evidence that this team's going to stay healthy and that these old players are not going to decline and that Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers. Like, we're all assuming that it's going to happen, but we don't know. Like, nobody knows. It's all guess. And so I absolutely think they can. And, if you ask me again in a week or a month or 2 months, I might change my prediction, because I think you go position by position. I think this is the best team in the AFC East, but you have questions about whether this coaching staff can handle like coaching close games and winning them. You have questions about Nathaniel Hackett's ability to lead this team. And I know Aaron Rodgers is going to call the plays, but Nathaniel Hackett's designing plays. He's calling the plays, even if Aaron Rodgers is changing them. He's still the offensive coordinator, even if they tried to hire somebody to kind of like reduce his role. And so those are my biggest concerns. I mean, my biggest concerns, in addition to Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, Elijah Vera Tucker, injury questions, Mike Williams coming off, ACL, the amount of luck they've had injury wise on defense over the last few years. The odds of them continuing to have that good luck are slim, but maybe they keep having it and this defense is still great. Because I do think this is maybe the best defense in the NFL. So roster wise on paper, everything is good, but the games aren't won on paper. This team still needs to prove they can win together. And so once I see how this team looks in training camp, and I did not feel good coming out of last training camp, even with Rodgers, because that offensive line was an absolute disaster. And the fans got mad at us for tweeting every time they let up a sack in camp, but they wound up letting up a lot of sacks in the season too. And I know guys got hurt and all that stuff, but I think ultimately once the season comes around, I'll probably predict them making the playoffs. But as of right now, I have them at 9-8 on the edge, maybe making it as like the 7th wild card. And then once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. But I just need to see how everybody looks in camp coming off these injuries, how Mike Williams looks, how Aaron Rodgers looks. And once I see that, I will feel a lot better or a lot worse about their chances.
All right. I'm going 11-6.
There you go. Optimism.
Yeah.
Optimism
Let's be
here.
positive here. It's May. We're doing a podcast. Come on. And the 6, if I look closely as I went through game by game, I had them splitting with the Dolphins and Bills, losing the opener to the Niners, losing to the Texans, losing in London. And then there was one more loss sprinkled in along the way. But yeah, so 11-6. I think they don't win the division. Maybe the Dolphins end up 12-5, but they are solidly in the wild card spot. And then, as you said, anything can happen in the playoffs.
What do you got, Marissa?
I'll be Switzerland and go right in between you guys.
Wow.
10-7.
10-7.
Oh, so we all have them with a
I
winning
don't know.
record.
I mean, I'm like, I looked at the schedule yesterday, we talked about it, but like, as we go through it, it's just like baffling. Yeah. Like, again, the opponents, not crazy opponents necessarily, but the travel, the night games, the logistics of the schedule is like pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm just curious at how, and maybe it's not an issue whatsoever, but it is a pretty, like, the night games is nuts. Like, Colts Sunday night, like, did that game need to be a Sunday night game?
Sure.
After like they had all these other ones earlier in the year, like,
and there's still and by the way, there's still a chance,
right?
if they are good, there's a chance they could be flexed to another one at the end of the year too. So.
Right. So what are the flexing rules? Like,
I forget what. Honestly, I don't have. They've changed it so many times that
they've
I don't
changed
have
it a lot.
But
you're right
allow,
though. Dolphins, Bills, Dolphins at the end of the year. Like,
yeah, the last.
Right.
I forget what they made it earlier now. I think like it's last.
I think
few
it's
weeks.
like starts almost in like week 6. I want to say.
Does it start that early? I don't know. I do know they do flex Thursday games now too. Like they can.
I mean, I think
That's
the flexing of I think the flexing of Sunday, like, primetime games, that
can start earlier.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. So this is probably not great podcasting. We can look it up.
Very end. If anybody's still here, then
yeah. But I believe it's earlier than it's been in previous years. So.
Yeah.
But it makes it really hard to predict game by game because of what you were saying, Marissa. Like, when does the travel and terrible scheduling catch up with them, right? Like, you don't know which weeks it takes its toll. And, they could, because of all that, they could have a real stinker against a bad team, which is, I think, kind of what Zach is predicting, is that along the way, there's a couple of stinkers, and instead of 11-6, you end up at 9-8 because of that.
So this is on the NFL website, and there's a lot on here. But for Sunday Night Football, it may be used up to twice between weeks 5 and week 10, and at the NFL's discretion between weeks 11 and 17.
Okay.
For Monday Night Football, it may be used at the NFL's discretion for weeks 12 through 17. And for Thursday Night Football, it may be used up to twice between weeks 13 and 17. So Sunday afternoon games may also be moved from 1 to 4:05 or 4:25. So it looks like things can be changed
A lot.
from weeks 5 through 10, I guess.
Damn
twice.
it. And I got all excited because the Jets have 8 1 p.m. games too, but maybe they'll have a bunch of 4 p.m. now.
Only Sunday afternoon games or those listed TBD are eligible to be moved to Sunday night or Monday night or Thursday night, in which case the initial scheduled Sunday, Monday, or Thursday night game would be moved to Sunday afternoon. So I guess we'll see.
We shall see.
Glad that's not my job, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on the schedule? Is that a Jets mug?
No, it's a Tulane green wave.
Oh, okay. I just saw white and green.
Got it at a Tulane game in New Orleans when I was there. Now I just use it to drink wine.
Nice.
Final thoughts?
I think I think the Jets are going to win every game and win the Super Bowl is what I meant to say. And I apologize.
That's what you meant.
For
Okay.
There you
erring
go.
ways.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
will honestly do. We'll do predictions.
We'll do a full
again
week by week.
before
Yeah.
week 1.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. This is the
Mhm.
way too early prediction, and then we'll do the. All right, we've seen training camp, taking some injuries.
Yeah.
And
I will say, just to look ahead, we are going to be at OTAs. I think May 21st or May 20th. Reporters are. We don't get to go to all of them. We go to like one a week, pretty much, or one every other week, or something like that. So Rodgers has been there for a lot of the offseason workouts. So I'm curious if we'll be there for. I mean, if he has time in between all his interviews he's doing on Twitter shows about conspiracy theories.
well said.
But yeah,
At least he's not running for president.
At least not running for vice president. Yeah, but if he's there, it'll be obviously a lot more interesting than if he's not. So stay tuned for that, and I'm sure we'll do a catch-up pod at some point in the next couple of weeks too.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Throw your thoughts on the predictions in the comment sections here on YouTube if you're watching us, or let us know on Twitter what you think this team's going to do. I'm sure you probably already have. Let the world know what you think. So we'll talk to everybody soon enough on the Can't Wait podcast.